Devil May Cry 2.
So as someone who's getting into the Devil May Cry franchise for the first time, I ended up playing DMC1 then DMC3, skipping DMC2 because of the amount of slander that I've seen it get. I enjoyed my time with both DMC3 and DMC1 as they aged pretty well, DMC3 probably aging the best, and having played it twice, once as Dante and once as Virgil, I'm really not sure if Devil May Cry 4 or 5 will be able to top it. And after looking at DMC2 a little bit, I saw Dante's new design in the opening cinematic, and I really just thought, how bad can this game really be? Well, as you can see, this game is pretty rough. But honestly, I did enjoy like the first hour or two with it. It wasn't horrible. The music was good, the atmosphere was kinda there, and the opening is, in my opinion, one of the best in the series. Unfortunately, DMC2 is a rushed product, and it has a lot of glaring flaws and no identity or personality, and many people like myself barely even realized there was a story being told. The level design and general game direction just feels so lackluster. And after the potion that DMC3 had on me wore off, then the cracks really started to show. The gameplay is definitely the worst the series has ever been. Attacks are slow and sluggish, Dante's guns for some reason makes enemies levitate, and the enemy AI is, well... yeah, half the enemies in this game actually just don't even do anything. You can kind of just sit there holding square until they die. Or the flying types that just sit there out of frame, so you just stand there spamming your gun until they die. And somehow, they even managed to mess up Stinger in this game. You know, the basic sword lunge that they've consistently had Dante do in every DMC game. Even the DMC remake did it better than whatever the hell they had in DMC2. And of course, let's not forget the amazing bosses in this game that really do test your skill. Yeah, the bosses are probably the most fun you'll have playing this game, and that's really not saying a lot since you can just spam your gun from afar. Or this. It's wild that the franchise, built upon its great boss designs, once had something like Infested Tank and Infested Chopper, two of the most notorious bosses in this game. I really wondered just who at Capcom thought it would be a good idea to have a zombie helicopter chase scene. But I don't know, I guess it's one of the many pointless events to happen in this game. Also, Dante's character in this game is easily the worst he's ever been. It feels as if they took the charismatic Dante from DMC1 and just squeezed out all of the personality and charisma that he usually has. Like, yeah, I guess DMC1 had a conflicting issue with how Dante acted versus the atmosphere and story the game brought, but it was still really enjoyable to see it all pan out and watch Dante throw out his corny one-liners. To say DMC2 even has a story is just definitely a stretch. It's just kinda Dante running around levels for no reason, doing stuff until you get to the end. There's some occasional puzzles and backtracking, but they're usually not too bad and they don't last too long. And to finish off every level, there's usually a big boss at the end. Unfortunately, they can just once again be melted away by Devil Trigger. As for the classic DMC secrets throughout the levels, there's basically none of those present here. Although you can find amulets scattered throughout the game giving Dante new Devil Trigger powers, the only issue with this is just how horrible the level design is. Almost every level in this game is just extremely bland with huge open environments that serve zero purpose. And honestly, some of the earlier levels really just feel copy and pasted. Whereas the levels in DMC1 were very artistically created with a setting in mind, it has fancy backdrops and very pretty architecture. Just about every area and room in the castle serves a purpose plot-wise. The game is also just smaller in scale than DMC2, but that's not really a bad thing as the atmosphere and overall vision stays consistent, unlike this game. And I feel like that's what's missing from DMC2. It lacks personality and the consistent vision that its predecessor had. For a while, it just feels as if you're mindlessly hopping around areas and killing unimportant bosses. And as I mentioned, none of the bosses actually matter to the overall plot, and the only one that does really sucks. Arius is a pretty one-dimensional villain with no goals other than immortality and to become a god, which we've seen so many times before. But I guess it isn't all bad, as at the end, Dante does have some cooler moments to show by the end of the game, but for the most part, a lot of the scenes are just really insufferable.
Till next time, son of Sparta.
And I'm gonna be honest, I haven't even touched the Lucia route. Even though I did hear that it's better than the Dante route, I noticed that it has more underwater levels. I'm not even sure how they were able to make even worse underwater levels than what they had in DMC 1, but from what I've heard, the controls are extremely floaty and janky, and it's just not fun to play at all. And really, the only good thing I could say about this game is its final boss. It's a pretty good boss with patterns that will punish you if you don't memorize them, though it's of course still very hard to lose given how broken Devil Trigger is. And after finishing Dante's route, I kind of wondered for a bit, just how do they go from Devil May Cry 1, which is generally known as a classic that pioneered the action beat-em-up style genre, to this? And so after looking into the production of DMC2 to see what went wrong, I realized a lot of it started with its rushed development cycle, as they just didn't have enough time to make a compelling story, which is why we got what we got. Hideaki Itsuno, being the director of DMC2, was someone who came into the project when it was in its final stages. He came in when there was literally a couple months left to finish the game, and he ended up making it playable, which is the DMC2 that we know now. Before Tsuno stepped up to finish the game, DMC2 had a completely different director that is literally unknown. Not sure why they hid his name, but it's pretty clear that they didn't want his name out there for whatever reason. And so Itsuno chose to take the heat and have his name displayed as director. But for better analysis on DMC2's production, I do recommend watching these videos, as they just explain it in detail. But I guess this was just a result of not being able to fully realize a single vision, as there were multiple directors and confusion in terms of what this game should even be about. And not wanting to be known as a guy who made DMC2, he then went on to direct the masterpiece that is Devil May Cry 3 to just basically clear his name. And see, unlike DMC2, DMC3 on the other hand is... Yeah, if you can't tell, this game is amazing. But yeah, I'm at least happy that Itsuno got a happy ending, as the mediocre reviews of DMC2 push him to go all out in the next title. But anyways, if you can't tell, I really do love the Devil May Cry series, and it's alongside my second favorite gaming franchise ever. And even though DMC2 was a disaster, just let this be a minor hiccup in one of the coolest series ever. And since DMC2 doesn't really have much of a significance to the overall DMC story, then you might as well just skip this one.